Hey guys, I'd like to welcome you back to this little mini-series where I'm making a decorative vase. In the last video, I mentioned that I was not going to do anything to this, that I was just going to bake it and sand it and then apply the butterflies. But I gave it some thought. I like to try to do a little something just for the sake of, the demonstration of it and all. And plus it might make it a little better, who knows. So all I plan on doing is just doing some cracking and all. I figured cracking would be a little more natural than grass or something like that. But I got a lot of really great suggestions in the last video, and I really thank you guys for that. Please keep up the good work. That really helps me out a lot, and I love hearing from each and every one of you. I do hope you enjoy. Without further ado, let's get started. So I got this little tool right here. It's just a simple tool. This doesn't have to be used. It could be a paper clip, a toothpick, anything that you can, make a good scoring on this. I'm starting this by going real light. That way, if I don't like what I got going on, I can just rub it away, so to speak. While I do this, I would like to talk to you about why I'm going to bake this first and then add the butterflies to it. It was a very good question that I got in the last video. It's quite simple. There is tons of little dents and fingerprints and high places and low places. It looks like it's pretty smooth and sane, but it's really not. And when you sand it properly, you can give it a automotive-like finish, a factory finish that you wouldn't have otherwise. And that's what I'm wanting to achieve. I want it to look really good. But you can put the butterflies on and bake the whole thing at one time. It's just trying to sand the entire plane of the surface after objects are on it is nearly impossible. So it would be very difficult. That's the reasoning behind why I'm doing this. But you can choose to do it either way. It's up to you. Okay, I got all my little cracking going on here. It looks good so far. I kind of like how it looks. So the next step would be to go through with the little designing I just did and make it deeper and more pronounced. I'm going to add one more first, right here. Just one straight happy little line. Okay, so now to go over what I just did, and I'm cutting into it as opposed to compressing it. And it's okay if I don't follow my lines exactly, because they'll probably just disappear in the sanding. And if not, it can only add to the effect. As far as depth, I'm trying to go deep enough to where when I do my sanding, everything else will be flat, smooth, clean, and relatively perfect, but these cracks will still remain. So I have to be careful when sanding not to erase them away, so to speak. I am trying to follow my pattern as best I can because I was happy with that in the first place. If I go trying to improvise, I might wind up with something very different than what I started, like maybe lightning bolts instead of cracking. But either way, I think it'll give it an artistic flair. Looks like I'm back to where I started. I'm gonna do this one a little deeper. I'm kind of going by a second pass, going a little deeper. I guess you just would call this a cautious nature, instead of just going gung-ho and digging all in. The thickness of my clay definitely allows me to go a little deep with this, which was why I was wanting to use that particular thickness in the first place. Kind of randomly make them a little longer because I noticed they're all kind of stopping at the same area, and it's becoming, I want it to be somewhat natural. even though it's clearly not going to be natural. I like it. I like it. Now I'm going to put this in the oven for 15 minutes at 275 degrees, which is the base instructions pretty much. Since it's the majority of this is Sculpey original, I'm going to stick with the 15 minutes per 1/4 inch thickness. I know other clays are mixed into it, but this should be fine because it will be baked again with the butterflies on it. So the base of this will actually get baked twice. If you want further instructions on how I go about baking things, you can watch the very final video of my elephant series. I kind of give you a closer look into that whole area of this medium. So let me go ahead and bake this and we'll get right back. But first I need to free this up from this marble. I don't want to put this marble in the oven, although I think it would go. I use the other one, the white and gray one. I use that to bake on. So I'm just going to take this palette knife and press down really firm like this and just free this up very carefully and very slowly. I'm being careful not to cut up into the clay. I'm keeping the angle down at this, the marble, and taking my time definitely. If anything, I can get it started really well and then just reach inside. Oh, there it goes. I can feel it. There it is. Now I broke that free, and I'll just set this on top of my other marble and bake it. So let me do that and then I'll be right back. Alright, this has been baked and it's been sitting for about 2 days now. You don't have to wait that long, but technically you should wait till it's cold to the touch, where it's pretty much room temperature. Personally, I like to wait at least 1 day before messing with it again to make sure it's completely I don't know, I just like to let it age for a day. It's just my personal preference. You probably don't even have to do that, but it's just something that I do. I waited 2 days because I was just busy doing other things. I wanted to show you this after it's been baked to kind of explain why I'm doing this in stages. I usually don't make things in stages. I just do the whole thing like I did the dragon or whatever and then bake the whole thing at once. What I mean by that is I baked this and then I can add more stuff to it and then bake it again. That's baking in stages. Whenever you do this, you want to be sure to bake it again as soon as possible after adding raw clay to this, because the raw clay will cause this clay, the baked clay, to kind of crumble and corrupt. It messes it up. But I wanted to show you this before I sand it. I'm not going to show you sanding it because I've already covered that in another video. It's a lizard video where I sand the body of it and I talk a little bit more about sanding. I'll leave you the links to these videos in the video description of this video. I don't know if you can tell with the camera. This is in 4K by the way, but there's these waves going in this direction right here. And if I move over a little bit, like say right here, they're more level. I wanted to point those out. This is from the pasta machine. See, a pasta machine's operated on gears. It's got like gears in there, so you hear, that telltale sound when you're cranking the handle. It's like a da 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 da. That's where each gear, as they're cogwheels, I guess. When it turns, it compresses the clay unevenly. It's a normal thing. They all do it, but it can actually make it worse if you force too much clay through your pasta machine at one time. It can actually worsen this. But that's an imperfection. And if you look, there's areas where it's just kind of messy. I got fingerprints. Like right here is like a big dent and a fingerprint. And there's also an area, where did it go? Right here. It's really, this is the worst area. This is areas where the clay was coming together and I didn't put enough clay there, or it's just, it's weird. It's rippled and there's like a slight, this looks like a crack almost right there. but it's along the line where this is where two pieces of clay came together when I was forming all this. So these are plenty of reasons why I want to sand this. If I lightly sand this, I can take all the waves out from the pasta machine, all my fingerprints will go, and any other imperfections will go with it. And then I can add on my butterflies and they will look, this will be pristine. It'll be like a master craftsmanship type thing. It's, as opposed to this, it's very crude. The skin to this is not very clean at all. It's got just waves and ripples everywhere. There's also bubbles, slight little bubbles here and there where it bulges out. And I'm guessing that's from, part of me wants to say it's just because I used a mysterious mixture of clay, of, you know, polymer clay, but it might also be air pockets behind the clay, because see, air expands. It's a gas, and when you heat it up, it expands. So if there's a little bit of air behind, like say right here, and when you go to bake it, it'll cause that air to expand a little bit, bulging it out. Usually I never have that problem. Another thing, one person in the last video mentioned that when they bake these, that the glass breaks. I just wanted to show you inside here. As you can see, the glass is completely intact. It's not broke at all. I've never experienced a glass breaking, so I don't know. I replied to the person's comment, but they never really got back with me. This right here is actually a much better way of showing you the imperfections in this. You can see right here how bad all that is. Some of that's high, some of this is low. Like right here, it's raised up right here, but it's low right there. A lot of that will disappear from sanding if it's thick enough. All this right here is high. I can even feel that it's just a raised spot. Right here is where two sheets of clay came together. That'll disappear. I'm not going to sand it like crazy, but I'm going to, you know, do a little bit to it to try to fix this. You see, it's hard to tell what this is going to look like when it's still soft, when it hasn't been baked. After you bake it, it basically takes the wetness away from it, and it dries it out and actually changes the finish to it. Any imperfection will be revealed pretty much instantly. Okay, I have the sanding done. You should notice instantly the difference in what this looks like. I have a very unified, very smooth, clean, very, very good looking vase right here. It's so worth sanding, you know, all the weirdness off. That's why I do this. Okay, here's a side view of it, since it's so much easier to see it this way. You can see areas where there's a different color to it. That's where it was too low and the sanding didn't reach those areas. There's very few on here, and I'm not too worried about it. Like here's a dip that was low still. Here's another one over here. It's not all that bad, but if you notice these white areas, that's where I took my tool and I dug in after the fact because it was sanded too much. I just took my tool and carefully etched the lines back again because they were lost during the sanding. This is completely avoidable if you just take and dig down deep enough while it's soft. I didn't quite go deep enough, but to be fair, I didn't know that it was really that nasty. The whole thing was all just, it needed a lot of sanding. So I made a mental note, you know, next time make sure I go well deep enough. You know, not too deep, but obviously deeper than where I went. I saved a couple areas where I can do this on camera. That way y'all aren't like, well, what did you do? What did you do? Let me find, kind of got them all pretty much. But there's areas that could be done a little more. Like right here, I guess. I just took the tool and carefully, you know, go back in there to make sure it's going to be discernible. I honestly think the natural areas, the areas that weren't, where I didn't scratch it afterwards, look better than this white looking stuff where I scratched it after the fact. Obviously, I think this looks better. But see, none of that matters because I'm going to antique this. I'll mix me up another color and then rub it in there and then wipe it away. The color will stay in these cracks and it won't, none of that will matter. But like I said, this is avoidable if I went deep enough the first time and all. I actually did have a crack right here. It's a little piece right here and right here. That's mainly from where that's where the two pieces of clay are coming together. And I had seen that already prior to sanding, but I'll actually show you how to repair stuff like that. Same thing with the bottom. There's an area right here where you can actually see the glass. I'll show you how to fill that in, the proper way to do that to where it won't come apart afterwards and everything. It'll be in the next video. The next video I'm going to be building a bunch of butterflies on top of my marble and cut them off and then put them on here. I'm going to show you all about that, and I'll also repair some of these little, I'll show you how to fill that in and stuff, you know, an easy way. Did I explain it good enough to where you understand that I wanted to bake it first to sand it to make it look real beautiful? I mean, this is pristine as opposed to that really rough, nasty texture that was all over the place. I sanded this with 150 grit sandpaper, and then I followed it up with 400 grit, just so you know. And it was about maybe 30 minutes, and I did it in water. That's pretty much it for this video. I really appreciate you guys for taking the time to watch this. Let me know what you think about what's going on here, you know, in the comments below. I really appreciate hearing from you, and I really thank you for your time, you know, for checking in, you know, tuning in. So until next time, I will see you here again soon. Thank you so much for watching.